welcome to my channel. These are scary stories from Reddit, and today we're looking at creepypastas, specifically ones that go bump in the night. So turn off the lights and cover your ears, because these stories are going to get in your head. And first, we have the thing in the attic. I moved into this old house to save money. It looked great. The neighborhood was quiet. There were no complaints from the previous owner about strange occurrences, just an old lady who sadly passed away. The house was cheap because it needed a lot of work. I happily took this on. I figured I could handle it. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. About a week in, I started hearing something above my bedroom at night. At first, it was just a scratching sound. Then I started hearing slow, deliberate steps above my head. I assumed it was rats. We'd hear them skittering around in the walls sometimes. Then one night, I heard the footsteps right above where I was sitting. I climbed up into the attic. It was pitch black with only a tiny moon, so I couldn't see anything. There was nothing up there except for some old boxes. I must have been standing in the middle of it all because as I turned to leave, I felt something watching me. Then I saw it. Two faintly glowing eyes were staring at me from the shadows. I don't know what it was, but it was definitely watching me. I bolted out of there and ran downstairs. The next night, I brought a flashlight and nailed the attic door shut. The scratching started again, but now it sounded more muffled. Then I started hearing heavy thumping and scratching sounds like something was trying to dig its way out. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of heavy footsteps in the attic again. I went to check it out. The attic door was open and the nails were still in place, but they were bent outward as if something had forced its way out. I checked the boxes and everything else. Nothing had been disturbed. I found another nail and hammered it into the door jamb beside the other nails. This time, I made sure to hit it in at an angle so that if something tried to push the door open, it would hit its head. I never heard scratching or footsteps again, but sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd wake up to what sounded like screams in the walls. I sold the house the next day. The new tenant called me a couple weeks later saying he couldn't take it anymore. He'd heard enough and he wanted out. I asked him if he'd seen or heard anything strange. He said, "No, but I'm not sticking around to find out." I haven't spoken to him since. I never found out what was in that house, but whatever it was, it made me and the guy who bought the house after me run for the hills. And that's all for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member. The link is in the description. Also, please enjoy the rest of your day. Don't forget to breathe. And remember, I'll see you next time. Our next Reddit post is from No Man's Sky. I had a roommate in college who wasn't human. College housing was full, so I took a room in a sketchy off-campus house. My roommate, Liam, was weird but harmless. I always found him staring at me when I wasn't looking, and he never blinked. I would come home from class and he'd be standing in the middle of the room just staring at me. Sometimes he wouldn't even respond when I talked to him. But then he would blink rapidly for like 5 or 6 times and then go back to staring off into space. He barely ever left the room and he barely slept. Whenever I would ask him if he wanted to hang out, he would always say no thanks, then immediately start cleaning the floor with a toothbrush. One night I came home early from a party, and I found him standing completely still in the dark facing the wall. I walked in and turned on the light and I asked, "Hey man, you okay?" He turned around with a very jerky motion. It was like someone programmed his brain to move his body. And his face looked wrong, like it was trying to mimic an expression of surprise. Then he forced a smile that was way too wide. I just stared at him. He stopped smiling and whispered, "I'm learning." I didn't stick around to find out what he was learning. I packed a bag with some clothes and toiletries, and I stayed with a friend the rest of the semester. When I returned to get the rest of my stuff, Liam was gone. The landlord swore that no one had lived with me. I was the only person on the lease, so I don't know what was going on. When I walked into the room, everything was gone. There was no bed, no clothes, nothing. The only evidence that he'd been there was a few strands of long, greasy hair on the pillow and some dried blood stains on the sheets. Then I noticed claw marks on the inside of the closet. I don't remember if they were on the door or on the walls, but it was like something had tried to claw its way out of the closet. I threw the sheets and the comforter in the washer, and I cleaned the bloodstains off the mattress with bleach. I didn't want to think about what those claw marks or that blood was from, so I just tried to focus on finishing my homework. After that semester ended, I never went back to that house. I heard that the landlord eventually rented the room to a woman who was a grad student. She lived there for 2 years and no one ever saw her again. Sometimes I wonder if I should have finished out my lease there just to see what would have happened. Maybe I would have gotten a break from my studies if whatever Liam was became interested in me. Down in the comments, we had this story from Flying Feline. I used to work with a guy who was convinced his flatmate was a vampire. Apparently, he was a bit of a shut-in and spent most of his time at home. His flatmate would never come out during the day, and he would only leave the house after dark. He would also occasionally come to work looking unnaturally refreshed and well-rested. I told my friend that if he was so worried about it, he should just stake the guy. It would be for the greater good. And another one from Kylan Clark. I had a roommate much like this in my first year of university. Except for the staring part, he was pretty friendly, actually. However, he was extremely nocturnal and would literally do everything backwards. He would set his alarm for noon and wake me up at midnight. He would shower in the middle of the night and get ready for bed while I was getting dressed to go out for the day. We got along surprisingly well, but I couldn't figure him out. Turns out he's fine. He just has a weird sleep schedule. Now I'm friends with the guy, and I can confirm he does sleep during the day. And here's one from Harkonnen. This happened a few years ago in Chicago. I was renting a house with a friend of mine. He gets a call saying that he's been offered a flat in London under market rate because the landlord needs a tenant ASAP. Naturally, he says yes. We jump through some hoops, and he's accepted. A week later, he gets another call saying that the background check has come back, and they can't let him have a pet. My buddy says that's fine. They ask for his forwarding address. He gives it to them. A week later, he gets another call saying that the background check has come back and they can't let him have a cat. My friend says that's fine. He asks for his forwarding address again. My buddy gives it to them. 2 weeks later, he gets a letter stating that the landlord has decided to withdraw the offer of the flat because he has a cat. He had put down a security deposit and paid a month's rent in advance. They refused to return his money until he signed a document stating that he voluntarily withdrew his application. He still lives in Chicago, and they never found a new tenant. To this day, he doesn't know if he was being stalked by a crazed cat lady who killed people with cats, or if the whole thing was just an elaborate scam. OP, I hope you went to the police about this. If the landlord really thought you weren't living there, that means you could have made a pretty convincing ghost. I'd glance up and there'd be a hook silhouetted against the sun, hanging from a telephone wire. Then I'd look down and there would be a man with a hook for a hand holding an even bigger hook. He'd grin and say, "Want to play?" And I would wake up screaming. I told my therapist, Dr. Phil, about the hookman. He said, "What does it mean to you?" I thought he was trying to help me understand myself. Instead, I asked, "Can I kill him?" Dr. Phil said that wasn't productive, but my dreams continued, always the same. The hook, the man, the offer to play. I couldn't take it anymore. I stopped seeing Dr. Phil. I started seeing a different kind of doctor. He understood. He gave me a prescription. Now when I dream of the hook man, I don't scream. I whisper, "Thank you." Story 2. The Ring. My mom got the ring from her grandmother. It was an antique, big ornate silver band, big enough for my finger. I wanted to try it on so bad. Mom said no. She was superstitious. Anything old she didn't want around. Said it attracted bad things. I was 14. I didn't believe in any of that. So while Mom was at work, I tried it on. As soon as I put it on, the lights flickered. Then the power went out. I heard a crash in the next room. I ran to the kitchen. Nothing was there, just flour on the counter. That night, my mom came home early. She took the ring. She made me take a shower. I scrubbed my hands raw. I think she knew. I don't know if she believed. But after that, she kept the ring locked up. Years later, she passed away. I inherited the ring. Now I wear it every day. Some days I feel eyes on me. Some days it feels heavy. But it's just a ring, right? Story 3. The forest that didn't exist. We were hiking a familiar trail, my brother and I, but somewhere along the path we took a turn neither of us remembered. That's when we found the forest. Quiet. Still. Too still. The trees were tall, symmetrical, like copy-pasted. No birds, no wind, no signal. Then we found a cabin. Inside were photos of us, ones we'd never taken. Each photo showed us deeper in the forest. One showed me alone. Then we heard footsteps, not running, dragging. We ran. Eventually, we burst back onto the main trail. The sky had changed. My watch said only 30 minutes passed, but it felt like days. We reported the area, but search teams never found the forest, or the cabin, or the photos. All of our stories are scary, but which one is your favorite? Why? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the suspense. I'll see you next time with 3 new stories. Until then, stay safe. Whatever you do, don't go into the forest, especially if it feels like it's calling you. Don't answer. If you hear footsteps behind you, don't turn around. Just keep walking, and whatever you do, don't take the ring off. You don't want to risk attracting whatever it is that's already watching you.